So a couple days ago, I covered a news story regarding the UK's National Health Service, which is an organization that has recently deliberated that, quote, frankly, no company should be setting kids up for addiction by teaching them to gamble on the content of these loot boxes. No firm should sell to children loot box games with this element of chance. So yes, those sales should end. This comes from NHS's mental health director, Claire Murdoch, and this is a deliberation that many other government bodies and organizations have come to, especially those who have done their research, presented plenty of evidence suggesting that loot boxes are in fact correlated to gambling. And in response to this, the UKIE, the UKIE, which stands for the UK Interactive Entertainment Association, which represents the video game publishing industry in the UK, their response was basically, but we have a website telling people how to set up parental controls. That absolves us of all responsibility. They specifically said, that is why on the 10th of January, we launched our Get Smart About Play campaign. You can visit it at www.askaboutgames.com. So today's video is going to be specifically about this website and so-called campaign and the way it tries to divert away any responsibility. It's them just saying the games industry has to do nothing. It is all 100% completely up to parents. Meanwhile, we can continue to be predatory because we have a website. So here is the Ask About Games website in question. This guy right here, his name is Rio Ferdinand. He's a pretty well-known soccer player, former soccer player, and they got this celebrity to do their ads. And it reads right here, Get Smart About Play. The UK Interactive Entertainment Association has today launched the Get Smart About Play campaign, encouraging more parents and carers to use tools that manage screen time and in-game purchases on video game consoles. Linked down here, embedded, is a video featuring Rio Ferdinand in which the UKIE spreads this propaganda about how game companies can get away with anything as long as they have a website and some parental controls that nobody uses or that they don't advertise enough for parents to really know about or to really leverage. So here's the video in question. I'm going to rewind this all the way to the beginning. And you can see already, judging by the fact that they disabled the likes to dislikes ratio in the comments, that this is going to be one of those videos that people with common sense will be able to see right through, that this is just really awful propaganda. So here's the video.
No, we're gonna smash him.
The big man's in. England against England.
Go on.
So this is the fantasy of playing FIFA. Everyone's just happy, the kids are nice and safe, they're just having a great time.
Oh my gosh!
But we know the reality is that there are plenty of people, who are
The Get Smart
afflicted.
About Play campaign provides parents and guardians with practical tips on how to achieve balance and set parameters on the amount of time and money is spent on play.
Afflicted by these predatory practices in games, the loot boxes, the card packs.
Understanding what games your child is playing. Stop moaning, bro. Give me the ball. Learning how to install parental controls to limit time, spend, or interactions with other players. Discussing the amount of game time and agreeing limits together.
What are you doing?
Remembering that the controls put you, as a parent or guardian, in the driving seat. Setting up parental controls is straightforward. Head to www.askaboutgames.com to find a step-by-step guide.
Okay,
Lucky boys.
so I got
Right.
plenty of things to say about this.
I got lucky.
So the video here, it's an ad. And like any ad, it sort of fantasizes and dramatizes what real life is actually like. I'm not saying there aren't parents who enjoy FIFA with their kids, but this video doesn't highlight the issue at hand, the scenarios involving parents finding out that their kids spent a whole bunch of money on FIFA card packs without their knowledge because the parents didn't really know that FIFA had loot boxes and the ability to pay for these gambling-like features. They didn't know because the game was rated E for everyone or PEGI 3. They didn't know about parental controls because that's just something that's not readily advertised. They show none of that in this video. And they talk right here about how, yeah, the parents have to discuss the gaming patterns with their kids and agree to limits and whatnot. I don't disagree with that, but this is a two-pronged issue. The parents have to be responsible for their kids, but that doesn't mean that game companies should be able to get away with predatory behavior. That's like saying that kidnappers should be able to get away with kidnapping because it's the parents' responsibility to ensure that their kids don't get kidnapped. Like, yes, parents obviously have to watch their kids, but that doesn't mean the kidnappers aren't doing anything wrong. Game companies shouldn't be able to just get away with anything by simply touting, well, parents should be responsible. They should be the ones to set up parental controls, especially when they go out of their way to make loot boxes seem as if they're fun and ethical, calling them surprise mechanics instead of what they are, gambling, to ensure that parents don't feel too worried about these loot boxes that pose a genuine threat to children and even adults who engage in this activity. Just putting up a website does not absolve you of your egregious actions. Can you imagine if a kidnapper said, well, I kidnapped the kid, but I did put up a website talking about, preventative measures on how not to get kidnapped, so I'm in the clear. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? That's pretty much what game companies are doing, what organizations like ESA and UKIE are doing by excusing their behavior through these websites that nobody really visits anyway. And this, by the way, has 61,000 views and was uploaded on January 9th. That's not a lot of views. Just putting this video up isn't a solution to anything. If the games industry really cared about the health of children and the health of adults and how they engage with these loot boxes, they would put the appropriate labels on the game box within the game itself with prompts that keep reminding players about how much they have spent, or that keep reminding people about the way they can set up spending limits, but none of that is really found because game companies don't want that intentionally, because that could get in the way of their profit margins. Going back to the Ask About Games website, this article continues with, the campaign follows a recent report from Europe's video game industry body, which found that only 1 in 5 parents of children who spend money in video games use the family controls available on gaming devices. It's almost as if just saying we have a website and uploading some random video with Rio Ferdinand isn't really enough to inform consumers en masse. This is backed up by a 2019 NSPCC study that revealed just 19% of parents of children aged 5 to 15 use family controls on internet-connected devices. A YouGov poll carried out for UKIE also found that more than half of parents and carers in the UK are concerned about how much time their children spend playing games. It's not just about the time spent playing games, it's also about the amount of money playing these games that are rated E for everyone and that easily allow kids to become consumed psychologically by this gameplay loop of having to spend in order to have the most enjoyable experience possible so that they don't have to grind for hours on end. Moving on, Rio Ferdinand, a parent and keen game player, has joined the campaign, which provides step-by-step guides on how to use the controls and the benefits that they provide. Here's a quote from Rio Ferdinand, not like it means much. "My kids love playing video games, but as a parent, it is important for me to be able to manage the amount of time they play," said Rio Ferdinand. "Family controls can help achieve a balance at home between screen time and other activities. They're easy to use and save a lot of arguments in the long run." You know what else can save arguments in the long run? If game companies just stopped with their predatory behavior, with their predatory business models, and actually shipped games rather than sneaking in gambling elements in video games to the point where a game like FIFA is more casino than it is a soccer game. And I'm sorry, am I supposed to find comfort in the knowledge that they got Rio Ferdinand to say a few scripted words, paid to say this stuff probably? Yeah, that's about as ingenuine as you can get, pretending like you actually care about keeping kids safe from predatory game companies, when in reality this is all about avoiding government intervention, trying to stave off backlash through these completely ineffective campaigns that are simply there to give off the illusion that these games organizations are being proactive, when in reality they're just doing absolutely nothing. Same thing with the ESA and their whole in-game purchases label, which informs absolutely nothing about a game's monetization content. From there, the article highlights this acronym that's meant to teach parents how to control their kids, while game companies get away with whatever they want, really. So the acronym is PLAY. The P stands for Play with Your Kids. Discover amazing games and understand what they play and why. L. Learn about family controls for your console. A. Ask what your kids think. Discuss ground rules before setting restrictions. Y. You're in charge. Set restrictions that work for your family. Well, since the UKIE loves acronyms so much, here's one for them. Piss off. It stands for Predatory Institutions Stop Scamming Others Financially. Fuckers. You've got to love this emphasis on how you're in charge. Set restrictions that work for your family. Same thing was seen in this video, in which one of the title cards said, "Controls put you as a parent or guardian in the driving seat." Not really. I mean, a lot of these video games, they are controlled by the companies, the game companies that publish them. They are the ones who set the odds. They are the ones who design the games a certain way so that you have to pay in order to have the best experience possible so you don't have to grind. A lot of these heavily monetized games, the ones with loot boxes, FIFA in particular with its card packs that are essentially pay to win, these kinds of games are so reliant on paying that by setting up parental controls and by limiting payment, you are crippling the game because the game was designed around monetization. It's only fun if you pay. It is actually the game companies who are in the driving seat, who are the ones who get to define how a player experiences a game based on how much they spend. Moving on, we have a quote from Dr. Joe Twist, CEO of UKIE, who said, "These controls can effectively help manage screen time and age-appropriate play even when you're not in the room. It doesn't take long to set up the controls, and it means families can enjoy games together safely. If a child was given a bike at Christmas, we would expect them to also be given stabilizers. Family controls are really no different." What an awful analogy. It is generally understood that bikes are dangerous for kids, especially starting out. It is understood that stabilizers are needed to ensure that kids can slowly build up their way towards being able to ride a bike. This is just common knowledge, and there are bikes sold for kids and bikes sold for adults. But when it comes to video games, there are games like FIFA that are sold, advertised as E for everyone or PEGI 3, kids friendly, and the general audience don't understand that these games contain elements of gambling because there's no warning on that front, because the general expectation is that a soccer game is just a soccer game, not a casino with a soccer game on the side. When all the children are doing is this and watching a screen, they don't think, oh, they'll be able to bankrupt us by spending all this money. The article finally concludes with a quote from Emma Kenny, one of the UK's leading TV psychologists. What the hell is a TV psychologist? Anyway, she said this: "The Get Smart About Play campaign's four-step process encourages families to have open and healthy discussions that will benefit everyone. Children want their carers to understand their interests, so as important as it is to set limits on the time and money they can spend playing games, it's also important to understand why they play and how much play means to them." I'm not denying that this stuff is important, that parents should proactively be on the lookout for how their children play games and have a discussion about that. But again, we also have to discuss about the behavior of game companies and the way they're exploiting people, parents who may not know much about the video games industry and the monetization elements that are seeping into our games and being called surprise mechanics instead of what they actually are: gambling. Now, going back to the topic of parental controls, there's a link here that takes people to this page that talks about all the various step-by-step guides that are available for the consoles that are out there now. But if you go to these websites, I mean, look at them. Just look at Xbox's page when it comes to parental controls. Is a parent who is not as technically savvy really going to go through all of this or even know that this page even exists? Same thing with PlayStation. It's this pretty involved process that a lot of the hardcore gamers or more technically savvy parents will be able to get through. But for the average consumer, this is not viable. This is not enough of a solution. As Eurogamer put it right here in an article on this matter, quote, "My conversations with parents of children who play games suggest console controls are fiddly and most struggle to work out how to get it all up and running, if they even know they exist." This is the perfect summary right here of how the average parent will interact with parental controls if they do it at all, given that, again, games don't advertise the existence of these parental controls. When you play a game like FIFA, all you get is that E for everyone rating or PEGI 3 rating, but the game offers no prompts to set up parental controls. There are no warnings that there are dangerous elements to loot boxes because the games industry don't want loot boxes to be perceived as psychologically dangerous and potentially harmful. They don't want to spread this notion that FIFA can quite literally empty out bank accounts if you're not careful, even though this is in fact the truth. There are plenty of articles and reports and stories out there of people who have experienced this because of either their own addiction or because their children spent all this money on card packs without knowing that they were spending their parents' money, and with parents not knowing that this game even contained any way for kids to essentially gamble away this money. And you can really see the nefarious intentions behind organizations like the UKIE when you look at these parents' guide to certain games. And the one that I want to highlight today is the FIFA 20 guide that's featured on their website. If we go to that right now, there is a segment that discusses FIFA's Ultimate Team, which contains card packs, which again are pretty much slot machines. And this article frames FIFA Ultimate Team as follows. In this mode, there's an incentive to spend additional money to open virtual packs of players that can improve your team. So I guess that's one way of saying it's pay-to-win loot boxes, pay-to-win gambling. And then it reads right here, it's important to understand that this additional cost is an optional extra and not an essential part of the game. That is absolutely a lie. If you don't spend money on these card packs, you're going to be grinding away for hours and hours on end insufferably, and you're never gonna get ahead. If you don't pay up, you're just gonna fall behind everyone else who does pay. So actually, yes, paying for loot boxes in FIFA 20 especially is an essential part of the game. The article then continues, you can play Ultimate Team without spending this extra money, although youngsters will likely want to put some of their pocket money towards it. They're flat out encouraging children, youngsters, to spend money on FIFA loot boxes. They're flat out saying it's okay to let those youngsters get a little bit of cash and dabble a little bit in that gambling. I mean, not gambling, loot boxes, surprise mechanics. Totally fun and ethical. And then this reads, to ensure you keep this enjoyable, see how they're framing loot boxes to be enjoyable, not dangerous in any way, no potential threats whatsoever, so parents don't know to be on the lookout for loot boxes. Anyway, as I was saying, to ensure you keep this enjoyable, ensure you have set up the passwords and limits on any credit cards on your system. A good alternative is to get children gift cards for store credit or FIFA points. Again, they're flat out saying, hey, parents, give children gambling money or pay for the children to gamble and engage with these loot box mechanics. And finally, you can also opt to add money periodically to your child's online account rather than associating open credit. Give your kids a salary for gambling mechanics. That's what they're saying here. Can you imagine if a casino came out and said, hey parents, we welcome children here. If you want to ensure those kids have a great time in our casino, make sure you give them some monthly money to spend on our casino. Give them some casino points to spend in our slot machines. The only separation between casinos and FIFA Ultimate Team right now are minor mechanical aspects and the law not catching up. But at the end of the day, psychologically speaking, both loot boxes and slot machines influence people's minds in a very similar way. There's plenty of research going around suggesting this, that loot boxes are not that far removed from gambling with how it triggers certain chemicals in your brain. It's the pursuit for that feeling of reward that you finally got the thing you wanted after anticipation, with the sound effects and the visual effects blaring as those chemicals get released and give you a sense of euphoria. That's all part of gambling. That's all part of loot boxes. That's how people get hooked and trapped by this. Need I really say more? This paragraph right here highlights perfectly the true intentions of organizations like the UKIE and the ESA. These campaigns are lies. These acronyms are BS, meant to divert attention away and make it seem as though they actually care about the health of children, when in reality, they're pushing for kids to spend money on loot boxes. Right here, they're flat out encouraging parents to give kids gambling money and engage with gambling mechanics that are being disguised without warning parents about the potential long-term adverse psychological effects this stuff could have on kids who might get hooked to the feeling that comes with opening loot boxes and therefore therefore when they grow up might engage in more similar mechanics, and as grown-ups these kids might not be able to control their impulses. When they do start making a salary, they might spend all that money opening loot boxes and card packs or engaging with gambling. That stuff is never highlighted by the games industry, by video game organizations like UKIE, in the hopes that they can continue profiting through their predatory business model. And this only further tells me that the games industry needs to be regulated by government bodies who can have some semblance of oversight over the games industry's monetization models and their monetization practices, because this crap is getting out of control. Or at least these are one man's thoughts and opinions on this play campaign. Again, to the games industry, I say take the piss off acronym to heart. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on all of this, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.